The idea started as a joke, or maybe it was a dare. In the world of rock and roll, where bands compete to play the biggest venues, break attendance records, and achieve legendary status, Metallica had already done it all. They'd sold over 125 million albums. They'd played for millions of fans across the globe. They'd headlined every major festival, filled every major stadium, conquered every major market. But there was one thing no band had ever done: play on all 7 continents. In 2013, Metallica was approached with a unique proposition. Coca-Cola Zero was looking for a spectacular promotional campaign, something that would generate global attention and showcase the brand's adventurous spirit. They proposed sponsoring Metallica to play concerts across all 7 continents within a single week, culminating in the unprecedented achievement of performing in Antarctica. For most bands, this would have been dismissed as impossible. The logistics alone were staggering: coordinating international flights, equipment transport, venue arrangements, and performances across multiple time zones and climate extremes, all within 7 days. And Antarctica? That was pure madness. There were no concert venues there, no infrastructure to support a rock show, no audience except researchers and scientists at remote stations. But Metallica wasn't most bands. They'd built their career on doing things others said couldn't be done. This challenge appealed to something fundamental in their identity: the desire to push boundaries, break rules, and make history. Lars Ulrich, the band's drummer and one of its founding members, was particularly enthusiastic. "We've played everywhere," he said in interviews before the attempt, "but Antarctica? That's the one place no band has ever played. That's the final frontier." The band agreed to the challenge. They'd play 7 shows on 7 continents in 7 days, with Antarctica as the finale. The clock would start on December 2, 2013, and end on December 8th. They'd have exactly 168 hours to make history. The planning process took months. Every detail had to be meticulously coordinated. Flight schedules were planned down to the minute. Equipment was duplicated and staged at multiple locations to minimize transportation needs. Local crews were hired at each venue. Medical teams were placed on standby. The entire operation was a logistical masterpiece. But Antarctica presented unique challenges that no amount of planning could fully prepare them for. The nearest research station that could accommodate the concert was Carlini Station, an Argentine facility on the Antarctic Peninsula. Getting there required flying to the southern tip of South America, then taking a smaller aircraft capable of landing on ice. More challenging was the environment itself. December is summer in Antarctica, but temperatures still hovered around -30 degrees Celsius. Wind chill could push the effective temperature even lower. At those temperatures, metal becomes brittle, plastics crack, and human tissue freezes within minutes of exposure. Musical equipment isn't designed for these conditions. Guitar strings contract and become prone to snapping. Electronic equipment malfunctions. Amplifiers refuse to power on. Even the musicians themselves face risks. Fingers can go numb, making it impossible to play instruments, and prolonged exposure can lead to frostbite or hypothermia. The solution was a geodesic dome that had been constructed near the research station. The dome would provide minimal shelter from the wind and slightly warmer temperatures, though it would still be far below freezing inside. The concert would be acoustic, reducing the equipment requirements and electrical risks. As for an audience, the plan was to invite researchers and support staff from nearby Antarctic research stations, people who'd been living in isolation for months, for whom any entertainment would be a welcome break from routine. Additionally, Coca-Cola ran a global contest, offering lucky winners the chance to travel to Antarctica and witness this historic performance. On December 2, 2013, the challenge officially began. Metallica performed their first show in Santiago, Chile. From there, they flew to Antarctica for the historic performance, then continued to Buenos Aires, Argentina. Each stop was a blur of airports, sound checks, performances, and immediate departures. By the time they reached their sixth continent, the exhaustion was visible. They'd performed in vastly different conditions, from tropical heat to Arctic cold, from massive stadiums to intimate venues. But everything had been building toward December 8th, the final show, Antarctica. The journey to Antarctica was an adventure itself. The band flew from Buenos Aires to Ushuaia, Argentina, the southernmost city in the world. From there, they boarded a specialized aircraft capable of landing on ice and snow. As they flew over the Drake Passage, one of the most treacherous stretches of ocean on Earth, the reality of what they were attempting began to sink in. When they landed on the Antarctic Peninsula, the cold hit them immediately. Even with multiple layers of clothing, thermal gear, and protective equipment, the temperature was shocking. The air was so cold it hurt to breathe. Every exposed piece of skin felt the bite of the Antarctic wind. The geodesic dome stood a short distance from Carlini Station, a bubble of relative warmth in an infinite expanse of ice and snow. Inside, temperatures were still well below freezing, but at least they were protected from the wind. The dome had been set up with a small stage, basic sound equipment, and seating for approximately 120 people. The audience began arriving, researchers from various Antarctic stations who'd traveled hours or even days to witness this unprecedented event. Glaciologists, climate scientists, marine biologists, support staff, people who'd chosen to live in one of the most isolated places on Earth. Many had never been to a rock concert before. Some barely knew who Metallica was. For them, this was an anthropological curiosity as much as entertainment. Among the contest winners were hardcore fans who'd traveled from countries around the world for this once-in-a-lifetime experience. They'd flown across oceans, navigated multiple continents, and endured the journey to the most remote location on Earth. They stood alongside scientists in thermal gear, all of them about to witness something no one had seen before. The mix of Antarctic researchers in practical cold weather gear and metal fans in Metallica shirts layered under parkas created a surreal visual, two completely different worlds colliding on the ice. Metallica took the stage looking like Arctic explorers rather than rock stars. Multiple layers of clothing, thermal gloves with the fingertips cut off to allow them to play instruments, winter boots and hats. Their breath was visible in the frigid air. James Hetfield stepped up to the microphone and addressed the small crowd. "We're Metallica," his voice echoing in the strange acoustics of the dome, "and we're about to play a show that no band has ever played before, in a place no band has ever been. This might be the coldest show we've ever done. It's definitely the smallest crowd we've played for in years, but it might also be the most important." The crowd erupted in cheers, 120 people making enough noise to rival thousands. The technical challenges began immediately. In the extreme cold, guitar strings were behaving unpredictably. Kirk Hammett had to constantly adjust his tuning between songs as the metal contracted and expanded with even the slightest temperature changes. What would normally hold tuning for an entire set required adjustment after every single song. Robert Trujillo's bass guitar required frequent warming near portable heaters to keep it functional. The cold was affecting the wood, the strings, even the electronic pickups. Between songs, crew members would rush the instruments to heating stations, desperately trying to maintain functionality for just a few more minutes. Lars Ulrichs faced perhaps the biggest challenge. Drumsticks can become brittle in extreme cold, and several snapped during the performance, forcing quick replacements. The drum heads themselves were changing tension with temperature fluctuations, altering the sound mid-performance. Between songs, crew members would rush out with heaters to warm the drums, buying them a few more minutes of functionality before the cold took over again. Despite these obstacles, Metallica powered through their acoustic set. They played 10 songs, including classics adapted for the intimate acoustic setting. The audience, scientists who spent their days studying climate change and glaciers, found themselves headbanging and cheering alongside lifelong metal fans who'd traveled across the globe for this moment. The acoustics in the dome created a unique sound. The curved walls reflected the music in unexpected ways, creating natural reverb and echo effects. Some described it as one of the most intimate and sonically interesting Metallica performances ever, despite, or perhaps because of, the challenging conditions. Between songs, band members would shake out their hands, trying to restore feeling to their fingers. The cold was relentless. What would normally be a 90-minute concert had to be condensed to minimize exposure time. Every minute in those conditions was a test of endurance. One particularly memorable moment came when penguins from a nearby colony wandered close to the dome, attracted by the unusual sounds echoing across the ice. While they didn't technically attend the concert, they remained outside the dome, observing from a safe distance. Their presence added to the surreal nature of the event. Metallica could legitimately claim they'd played for penguins, and the image of these curious birds investigating the strange noise became one of the most shared photos from the entire experience. When the final song ended, the applause from 120 people seemed to fill the entire Antarctic landscape. Scientists who'd never heard heavy metal before were grinning and cheering. Contest winners who'd dreamed of this moment were crying with joy. And Metallica stood on stage, exhausted but triumphant, having accomplished something no other band in history had done. As they packed up their equipment, carefully warming each piece before handling it to prevent damage, the magnitude of their achievement began to sink in. In 7 days, they'd crossed the entire planet, performing in 7 radically different environments for audiences ranging from 120 to thousands. They dealt with time zone changes, language barriers, equipment failures, and physical exhaustion, and they did it all for the sake of making history.
The Guinness World Record was officially certified. Metallica became the first and only band to perform on all 7 continents within a single week. The achievement entered the record books alongside countless other remarkable human accomplishments. But the significance of the Antarctica concert extended beyond the record books. The performance became a symbol of dedication to craft over commerce. They'd played for 120 people when they could have played for 120,000. They'd risked equipment damage and personal discomfort for an audience that included people who barely knew who they were. They'd chosen achievement over profit, legacy over immediate gain. For the scientists stationed in Antarctica, the concert became a legendary moment in their isolated lives. Many described it as one of the highlights of their entire Antarctic deployment, a reminder that even at the most remote point on Earth, music and human connection could reach them. The contest winners who attended carried stories that would last a lifetime. They'd witnessed something truly unique, an intersection of human ambition, artistic dedication, and the raw power of nature. In an age where concerts are carefully produced spectacles in climate-controlled venues, they'd seen a band fight against one of the harshest environments on Earth just to play music. The footage from the Antarctica concert became legendary among Metallica fans. The images of the band playing in thermal gear, visible breath in the frozen air, equipment being frantically warmed between songs, it all captured something essential about what drives artists to push boundaries. In interviews after the event, band members reflected on what the experience meant to them. James Hetfield noted that despite playing for millions throughout their career, the Antarctica show reminded him of why they started playing music in the first place, not for the money or the fame, but for the pure experience of creating and sharing music. Lars Ulrich described it as one of the most challenging but rewarding performances of his career. The physical difficulty of playing in those conditions, combined with the knowledge that they were making history, created a unique intensity that no normal concert could replicate. Kirk Hammett talked about the surreal beauty of the Antarctic landscape and how it put everything in perspective. You're standing on this frozen continent, playing guitar in -30 degrees, and you realize how small we are, he said, but also how powerful music is, that it can exist even there. The achievement also had environmental implications. By bringing global attention to Antarctica through this concert, Metallica helped raise awareness about climate research and the importance of studying Earth's polar regions. The scientists who attended the concert gained a platform to discuss their work with a global audience interested in the story behind the performance. In the years since, the Antarctica concert has become part of Metallica's legend. It represents the band's willingness to do things simply because they haven't been done before, their dedication to creating unique experiences, and their understanding that sometimes the most memorable moments come from the most challenging circumstances. The concert also set a precedent that no other band has matched. While several other artists have since performed in Antarctica, none have done so as part of a 7 continents in 7 days challenge. Metallica's record stands alone. Today, the geodesic dome where Metallica performed has been dismantled, but the memory of that frozen December night persists. In research stations across Antarctica, scientists still tell the story of the time the world's biggest metal band came to the bottom of the world to play for a handful of people and a few curious penguins. The achievement demonstrated something fundamental about human nature, that we're driven not just by practical necessity, but by the desire to push boundaries, accomplish the unprecedented, and create moments that will be remembered long after we're gone. Metallica didn't need to play in Antarctica. They didn't need to subject themselves to dangerous conditions, risk damaging their equipment, or exhaust themselves flying around the world in 7 days. They did it because no one else had. They did it to make history. They did it to prove that passion for music could overcome any obstacle, including 30 degrees below zero temperatures at the bottom of the Earth. In an industry often driven by profit margins and calculated risks, Metallica's Antarctica concert stands as a reminder that some things are worth doing simply because they're extraordinary, that art and achievement matter beyond their commercial value, that pushing human boundaries is its own reward. When future generations look back at the history of rock music, they'll see countless stadium shows, record-breaking album sales, and legendary performances. But they'll also see that in December 2013, 4 musicians went to the most hostile environment on Earth, where temperatures could kill and equipment could fail, and played music for 120 people because nobody else ever had. That's not just a concert. That's not just a world record. That's a statement about human determination, artistic dedication, and the power of doing something impossible simply because it's never been done. Metallica played for penguins in Antarctica, and in doing so, they proved that there's nowhere on Earth, not even the frozen wasteland at the bottom of the world, where rock and roll can't reach.